Hey guys, it is Cyber Monday, and that means we begin the holiday season. Whether you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus, or just enjoy exchanging gifts, I have a wonderful curated selection of watercolor supplies inspired by you art nerds. In years past, I've done loads of watercolor, comic, and alcohol marker gift guides inspired by giving to others, but this year I thought my art nerds should treat themselves. So I hope you guys are just as excited as I am to see the wonderful watercolor goodies I've selected for you this year. Before we dive too far into this year's holiday goodies, I want to take a moment to remind you guys that your favorite content creators often create content that you guys consume for free. December is a wonderful time to consider tipping your favorite content creators through coffee, through PayPal, through Patreon, letting them know that you enjoy the work they do and helping them get through December. For many of us, December is a really expensive month. Many live far away from families and need to travel back to visit their loved ones. And it's also a month where not only are we working double time to provide content for you guys, but we also have long stretches where we may not be able to work. So if you enjoy what we do, please take a moment and check out our descriptions and consider contributing to our PayPals, our coffees, our Patreons, and letting us know that you really truly enjoy our content. I'm going to take a moment to point out that everything in this video is going to be listed in a blog post that I'm going to have linked in the description below. There's going to be links and prices where you can buy everything. I will mention it in the video when applicable, but I just wanted you guys to know that everything is neat and tidy and handy over at nettosoup.blogspot.com. And if you're buying for a loved one who might be interested in watercolor or interested in comics or interested in alcohol markers, make sure you check out my other Christmas gift guides over there as well. I'm going to begin with the paints because this year there were really some stellar paints released, and I had the opportunity to unbox and swatch some really phenomenal paint sets this year. So we're going to start way at the bottom with the MozArt Komorebi set. I believe I reviewed this way back in February or March. And it is a 45, I believe, color set. And it's actually quite affordable at $29.99 on Amazon. It's gone up a little bit since the last time I reviewed it, but it features these large full-size watercolor pans. They're liquid poured, and they come in a metal tin. And not only do you get sort of your basic useful colors, but you also get some neons and you get some metallics. And if you're looking at the Sakura Creative Artist color set, I would actually recommend you get this instead. So this is my first pick. This year I really like the MozArt Komorebi set. I think you guys will like it too. Next, we're going to take a look at the Vinci Mixing colors. Now, these are the liquid poured watercolors. This is a set of 12. I got these on Jerry's Artorama, and you can get them for $56. I was really impressed by these watercolors this year. They have brilliant, beautiful color. A lot of transparency, just seems to scintillate on the page. These are gorgeous watercolors, and I reviewed these earlier this year and just fell in love, especially on cotton rag watercolor papers. These are gorgeous, gorgeous full pans of color. You can also get Da Vinci watercolors in tubes, but these are the ones that I'm familiar with, so these are the ones that I can recommend. And they come in a distinctive Da Vinci gunmetal gray palette with a ring on the back. Next, I want to recommend the Qor Mini Travel Set. This was introduced just this year, and I hustled to pick it up. I ordered mine from Blick, I believe. You guys will have to forgive me. I have a gray cat forcing his way onto my lap. You guys got to see him earlier in the video, though, so at least there's that. So this is a really unique little set for a lot of different reasons. First of all, Qor watercolors use Aquazol rather than gum Arabic. So the blues and the greens are really brilliant and clean. Let's see if I can get this open. There we go. It's a beautiful 12 color set with a lot of really intense, gorgeous colors. So if you're interested in watercolor, but you're one of those people who thinks watercolor is typically pastel, this is a set for you. The interior it's like silicone lined, and it is difficult to get the little half pans out, but these little half pans really go a long way. Now, Qor doesn't currently sell refills. I'm kind of whining at them to please do that. I love these and I want to be able to use this set, but this is a fantastic pocket-sized set of 12 colors for $59.99 on Blick. I also recommend, if you're interested in Qor watercolors, they have the 6 color introductory set going for a crazy low price of $20.99 on Jerry's Artorama. I really love Qor watercolors and I highly recommend you give them a try. I don't have the introductory set as a set. I have them as piecemeal tube watercolors, but I really recommend them. And you can check out not only a review for the Qor mini set here on this channel, but you can also check out a review or several reviews of Qor watercolors, the tube watercolors, and then the tube watercolors dried in half pans on this channel as well. The next watercolor set we're taking a look at is a really big deal to me. I have been waiting for this set since Doodle Wash announced it during World Watercolor Month way back in July, and it is the Daniel Smith travel sets. They have a lot of different travel sets, but y'all know me, I had to get the ultimate mixing set. And what's really cool about these is a lot of things. There's a lot of things really cool about this. For one, for 15 beautiful Daniel Smith colors, you're gonna pay $74.49 on Blick, which for those of you who are familiar with Daniel Smith, y'all know that is a really good price. Another really cool thing is and I think this is true for all the mixing sets, but with the ultimate mixing set, you get not one palette with gorgeous Daniel Smith colors, and I've already reviewed these. I'm waiting until I have a little bit more time so I can do the field test, but you guys can check out the sneak peek by clicking, or you'll find that in the description below. But you also get an empty palette of half pans, which you can fill with whatever colors you want. You can have your favorite Daniel Smith colors with you all the time. I think that's really cool that you get 2 sets. I really love the small form factor of this. This is small enough to fit into my pocket. It's small enough to fit into my purse. It really is a good travel set. Daniel Smith doesn't waste space with like a palette that you're not really going to use, or a palette that's a pain in the butt to clean. It's just pure color really packed in here. And these are intense and gorgeous. And these have been specially formulated for rewettability, for reworkability. So if you've used Daniel Smith watercolors from tubes and you've allowed them to dry and then you found that they just won't reactivate in the past, none of these will give you that problem because they've been very specially formulated. So I am really excited about these. I am sure these are on everybody's gift guide, everybody's wish list. But I had to include them because I love Daniel Smith watercolors. I also think they're a really great company. They're US based. They always make it to the hands-on creativity here in Nashville. They actually seem to care about their customers. So, you know, when a company treats its artist and art supply customers well, I definitely want to give them props. Another Daniel Smith product that I really recommend is the Daniel Smith 6 color Primatek set. And this is actually my end case, and I've added some additional colors. So the initial set is full of Primatek colors, which are all made from natural minerals and pigments. And all of them reactivate beautifully except for Mayan Blue. Mayan Blue is made from a clay and it doesn't reactivate well, but otherwise every Primatek color I've tried, including some of the like bonus ones I've added in since, reactivate gorgeously. So to this set, you get, I think Piedmont Genuine, Rhodonite, which is like that hot pink color, Amethyst Genuine, which is gorgeous, you guys, Mayan Blue, which I think is this one, and then I think jadeite, which is one of these two greens, but I've also added green apatite, which I think is this one, blue apatite, which is this one, lunar black, and bronzite to my set, because I want to be able to do like a field test with all Primatek colors to see how that turns out. Now, the only one I really can't recommend is the Mayan blue, just because you can't put it in a half pan like this and reactivate it. You need to use it straight from the tube to get it to work. But you can get the set of 6 on Amazon, which is actually the best price I've found, for $26.17. It's like half the price of what they're going for on Blick, and you get 5 milliliter tubes. And we've come to our final paint recommendation, Finetec Pearlescent colors. Now I have a lot of these open stock, like several of the golds I have open stock, so you can get them that way. And they recently released a 24 color set of these, and I'm super jealous. I wish I'd waited. But this is the Pearlescent set, and it is gorgeous. I think you guys have seen me use these in comparisons. You've seen the unbox and swatch for this, I believe. They are really, really nice for metallics. They're one of my favorites. In fact, I have a big metallic watercolor overview that if you're looking for great metallics, you should definitely check that out. These rank really high. What's neat about this set in particular is you can pop these out and reorder them. You can also, let me see if I can grab one working around my cat. Might not be the case. Nope. You can also get kind of like these little discs of Finetec pigment, and I don't have any to hand, so I can't show you, but they'll fit in this set as well. And you can also get the empty sets. So you can get Finetec metallic watercolors starting at $5.80 for individual ones on Blick, and then it goes up from there. So those are my paint recommendations. Next, we're gonna roll on into paper. So I have 4 new recommendations for you guys this year. Some of them I reviewed over on the blog. Some I haven't gotten a reviewing yet, but I have had the pleasure of using. This year, I would like to recommend Blick Premier watercolor paper. You guys, I love this paper. Okay, it is cotton rag watercolor paper. It is block bound. This one actually has an illustration I need to finish on it. It handles a lot like Arches. It's really nice. It's got good tooth to it. It takes pencil well. It takes watercolor very well. You need a knife to remove it from the palette, but I have to do that with Arches anyway. And it's very affordable for watercolor paper. You can get a block of 20 sheets. In fact, I think it's this block here, starting at $14.75. Now, for those of you who are not used to using, watercolor paper, cotton rag paper, I know that seems pricey, but I promise, invest in yourself this holiday season. You're gonna fall in love with it. Next, we're gonna take a look at a paper recommended to me by my friend Kabocha. It is Stonehenge Aqua papers, and we're gonna look at Hotpress and Coldpress. The Hotpress is fantastic. I know some of you guys don't like tooth to your watercolor papers. This one is very smooth, but it's very absorbent. It's a cotton rag hot press watercolor paper. This one is bound on 2 edges, but you can remove it from the block if the block is not convenient for you. You can run it through a printer so you can print your blue lines on it. It takes ink super well, and it takes watercolor gorgeously. I really, really like this paper. And you can get it starting at $14.50 for a pad at Jerry's Artorama, and there's 15 sheets in a pad. Since we're talking about Stonehenge, let's also talk about their Coldpress. So almost the same thing, has a bit of a texture. It's a beautiful texture. Cotton rag paper, takes color gorgeously. Also $14.50 at Jerry's Artorama. I really recommend you guys try them, and I can't wait to share my field test of these with you guys. Finally, we have Cheap Joe's Kilimanjaro. This is their 300-pound paper. It's also available in 140-pound. It's also available in like spiral bound books. You guys, I know I keep saying I love this paper. I haven't included anything on this list that I don't love. So if you don't like hearing me say I love, you're just gonna have to get over it, because these are all my favorite things from this year. So Kilimanjaro paper is cotton rag paper. I love doing like my nice illustrations on this paper. So like The Ink Drop Cafe illustration I did is on this. I did my 2 ALAAC illustrations on this, and I did last year's Christmas card on this. It is so absorbent. This is pad bound, it's not block bound. So pad bound or tape bound tends to be a little bit cheaper than block bound because it's only bound on one edge. It will run through my printer. It takes watercolor beautifully. It takes ink gorgeously. You can do gorgeous wet into wet techniques. You can do gorgeous salt techniques. I really, really love this paper. Now it's a little bit more expensive. This is, again, we're looking at the 300 pound here, but it starts at $21.89 for this sort of format over at Cheap Joe's. But I believe with the 140 pound, you get 20 sheets, and with the 300 pound, you get 10 sheets. But I really like this paper. Now, if you are new to cotton rag paper, start with the Blick Premium watercolor paper. That paper is great. It performs really, really well. You can remove it from the block. It's a great paper to start with. It's very affordable. Or start with the Stonehenge Aqua, either the Hotpress or the Coldpress. Both of them are great watercolor papers. This one just happens to be one of my favorites. All right, we're still talking about that paper, y'all, and where would a watercolor artist be without a place to practice? So we have moved on to watercolor sketchbooks. Some of these I've mentioned in the past and kind of fallen in love with again. Some of them I've kind of had a chance to play with new this year. So we're gonna start with the most available, the most basic, the most common, the Canson XL. You can't improve on a classic. You guys, you can get this thing at Walmart, you can get it at Michael's, you can get it at Blick. You can get it for $5.75 on Blick. So if you are visiting your family and you want to do some watercolor sketching and you didn't bring your stuff, you should be able to find this no problem. Now this is a cellulose-based watercolor paper. This one goes with me everywhere, and yet the cover has still held up really well. The spiral binding holds up really well. It takes watercolor decently well. It is a cellulose-based paper, so it is not going to be as absorbent as a cotton rag paper, but it's much more affordable. And you're not going to feel bad about like goofing in it or making mistakes or painting things that are ugly or what have you. And it has perforated pages. So if you like something and you want to give it to someone for Christmas, like say, you know, your aunt was hanging out with you while you were painting and she's like, I really love how you painted that tree. You can remove it and give it to her for Christmas. So very, very affordable. Really like it. Really just a good standard watercolor journal. Can also take marker. You guys saw that it can take ink, and it starts at $5.75 on Blick. Speaking of Blick, I talked about Blick Premier watercolor paper. Their Studio watercolor is also good. You just got to use it differently. Again, it is a cellulose-based watercolor paper, and it loves watercolor markers, y'all. I like swatching my watercolor markers in this. And I think I have another illustration handy where I used watercolor brush markers and water and stuff. So it is a very affordable watercolor sketchbook that you can get in larger sizes. Now you can only get it through Blick because it's made by them. You can get this watercolor sketchbook starting at $5.66 for their 9x12, which is what we have here. 15 sheets, not a bad price, and a perfect place to practice your watercolor. Art nerds who have been with me for a long time, either on the blog or here on this channel, know that I am a fan of fluid watercolor paper. I use it a lot. This year, Fluid has 2 watercolor offerings in various formats. And of course, loving tiny things, I got the tiny formats. So there is the Fluid / Global Arts, I should say, Fluid Handbook, Handmade watercolor book. And this has handmade watercolor paper. I believe there is some cotton rag content to it. And if you love rough watercolor papers, if you want to do really, really loose gestural watercolor sketches, this is a great place for it. The only problem is that you get a lot of speckling in it, but if you're looking for an affordable place to practice your floral watercolor studies, for example, or your brushwork, and you really love textured paper and you don't want to make your own, this can be a great option. This is available in a variety of sizes, and you can get the 6x6 for $25.50 plus shipping through Amazon. I know that is a little bit pricey. You can also get Shizen watercolor paper in packs of 50 for less than that. And unfortunately, I haven't reviewed that. It's waiting to be reviewed. So I cannot include that in this gift guide this year. But I really enjoyed painting this. I really enjoyed the format. There were some issues that you guys are going to need to watch the review to find out about. Then Handbook also has a smaller a small 24 sheet cellulose based watercolor book. And this is made using the fluid watercolor paper. So if you like the fluid cellulose watercolor paper, you might like this book as well. And I haven't really cracked into this one too much yet. I've just been really busy. But since I'm using the fluid watercolor paper, and I know I like their watercolor paper, I know I'm gonna like this. And it is $10.92 for the 6x6 size. Again, it comes in various sizes and various formats. It's $10.92 on Amazon, which for 24 sheets is a pretty good price. This year's brush recommendations are kind of scant, not because I can't recommend any brushes, but because I've covered that in years past and I haven't really discovered anything new this year that's just completely groundbreaking. Now, there's a couple of exceptions. One would be Menso brushes, which are Japanese, they're like sumi brushes, but they're frequently used for inking. This would be, I believe, a Boku Undo Menso brush, but Kuretake makes them as well. And they tend to be very similar to Kolinsky sable brushes in terms of the sort of marks they're capable of making and the sort of snap they have, but they tend to be like half the price. And I've reviewed those here on this channel as an inking implement, but you can also use them for watercolor. And they have some longer bristles, which could be used as like a liner brush, for example. But they are very affordable and I think they perform quite well. I also found out about, and I don't know why I'm so late to this train, the silver black velvet synthetic and squirrel brushes. Now, initially I thought these were all synthetic. I have found out that they are synthetic and squirrel mixed, but I have to say I love these brushes and they handle like they were all squirrel. They are great. And I think as time progresses, I'm going to be collecting a lot more of these because I've kind of fallen in love. Now, the Menso brushes, that is a tricky one. If you live in an area that has a Maido or a Japanese stationery store or a Japanese art supply store, you can get them for a lot cheaper, like $4.50 cheaper. This isn't the one I am thinking of, but I've picked some up from Maido when I was in San Francisco, actually. I see one of them right here. Haven't even unwrapped it yet. So this is a fairly small one. This one would be really good for inking or doing lining, or maybe painting smaller details. This is one of the Kuretake ones. And the packaging says they're 350 yen, which is about $3.50. But at Maido, I paid $6.95, which is still a whole heck of a lot cheaper than Kolinsky sable brushes. Even the really cheap ones like Creative Mart Kolinsky sable, which have been my recommendation in the past. So if you happen to encounter Menso brushes, I recommend you give them a shot, and you can get a set of 3 of the Kuretake Menso brushes, so like this, and then getting progressively larger for $36.79 on Amazon. You can get the silver black velvet brushes for various prices available through Blick, but they tend to kind of start around $5, and it really depends on what you're looking for. And if you're interested in affordable watercolor brushes that use natural fibers in larger sizes, sumi and hake brushes and Chinese watercolor brushes are a great place to get affordable watercolor brushes that come in larger sizes, that are capable of stiffer strokes or more gentle, delicate strokes. And these are just kind of a variety that I've collected through the years. Some I like, some I don't. And this is a Chinese piston water brush, which actually performs quite well. The only problem with it is that you need to empty the water out when you're not using it. The water will evaporate and it can also mold inside the brush. So if you're looking to expand your watercolor brush collection in an affordable way, Sumi brushes are a great way to do that. So for me, accessories is one of the most fun parts of any outfit, and it's definitely one of the most fun parts of any watercolor review because it gives me the opportunity to really express my personality and introduce you guys to some things you may not be aware of. So this could possibly be my favorite part. So I'm gonna start out with the saddest part. Move this on over to the side. How handy. And we're looking at a single set Pentel brush pen. They come in a set of 18. I swear I have a set of 18. I've reviewed a set of 18. I've demonstrated a set of 18. It's walked. I don't know where the heck it went, but it walked. So while I struggled to find it, because I actually also use these to do spot color comics, I will show you the one example that I have on hand, red, which I'm actually going to be using for a spot color comic later on today. Now, these are dye-based watercolor brush pens. They can be used for a lot of different things, and there are a lot of different dye-based watercolor markers on the market. I've reviewed several of them here on this channel. What I really like about these markers, despite being expensive, is A, they last a super long time. That whole barrel, I don't know if you could hear it, this whole barrel is ink. There isn't a well, there is a breather tube in here, but it doesn't take up a lot of room. This thing holds a lot of ink. I know you can't see it, but believe me, it holds a lot of ink. It has a nice, large nylon brush tip with individual bristles. So it's very gentle on your paper surface. It blends beautifully. The colors are really vibrant. You can buy refills for this. And they're just my favorite. Of all the ones I reviewed, despite being the most expensive, they're my favorite. These are the ones I grab when I want to do spot color stuff. These are the ones I grab when I want to do watercolor stuff. These are the ones I grab when I want to do mixed media stuff. So these are really versatile. The full set of pins goes for $99.90 on Amazon, which I know is kind of a splurge. They are cheaper in Japan, but we just don't necessarily have access to that here. So if you see the set for less, go ahead and grab it for less. If you want to try buying individual markers or in sets, they do come in smaller sets as well, and you can get them as individual markers, and those typically start at about $6 to $7 to $8. It kind of depends on the color and the availability per marker. So I really, really like these, and I hope you guys will give them a try despite that price tag. Next, we're taking a look at Winsor & Newton colorless masking fluid. I know this isn't a new product, but I have really struggled to find a masking fluid I like. I've tried several different brands. I've tried La Masque, I've tried Schminke, I've tried the color version of this, I've tried Miskit, hated all of those. Stained my paper, tear up my paper, impossible to remove, difficult to remove, just this is the only one like this in a bottle that I actually like. It's colorless, so you do have to remember where you put it, but it's going to cause a little bit of a resist with your watercolor anyway, in terms of like, you know, when you paint over it, there's going to be a little, you can tell when you've painted over it. You don't need it to be day glow orange. So this is my favorite of those. And I think I have a few videos showing how you can use masking fluid without ruining your favorite brushes as well. So you can get Winsor & Newton masking fluid for $11.49 on Amazon. What is new to me this year is Winsor & Newton Gum Arabic. Now, I've had this bottle in my studio for a really long time, and it's starting to get really kind of gross in the bottom there. I just noticed that. It's time to toss this bottle. But what's cool about gum arabic is you can use it for all sorts of things. If you've noticed that your watercolor pans have started cracking, for example, I know some people that really bothers them. I don't care. But some people like really get upset about that. You can actually use a drop or two of gum arabic to kind of seal it back into its pan, or even like, okay, so let's say you have a tube of watercolor that's completely dried up. You can do some surgery and get your paint out of that tube and then muddle it back up with a little bit of gum arabic to kind of salvage it and reconstitute it. You can also use gum arabic to make homemade watercolor paints. Now, your mileage on that may vary, but it's a very popular option. You can get a bottle of gum arabic for $14.72 on Amazon, and I would love to try Aqua, which is Qor's version of gum arabic in the future, because that stuff is clear and it seems really cool. But I have some videos where I demonstrate different uses for this here on this channel. If you paint a lot, this next recommendation, this next self-gift is going to be more useful than you think. And it's a ceramic brush rest. And these are really not very expensive. This is a Jake Richardson one that I got from David Art Supply in Metairie, Louisiana. You can get one of these for $7.50 on Amazon. And what's neat about it is you're not resting your paintbrushes. Like, let's say you just put it down for a moment so you can switch to another color, but you're going to grab that same brush in a second. You didn't want to wash it out. You can just rest it on the rest. It'll keep it propped up so it's not dripping everywhere. It's nice and handy. You know, this is the sort of thing where you kind of shrug it off because it's something that like you think you don't need, but then you find out you do, and it's really not expensive. And there are other brush rests available. You don't have to get this one. You can get a cuter one. I like this one because it's very utilitarian, and if it gets dirty, I can clean it off very easily. Next on my list are ceramic palettes, and you really have a lot of different options for ceramic palettes. What I have here is just kind of a little taste of what's available on the market. So I have here a flower ceramic palette. It's been cleaned out. I have here a dish type ceramic palette, and I actually don't clean it out because I like mixing greens for florals in this, so I actually reuse this, and that's what's kind of neat about ceramic palettes. With plastic palettes, sometimes you can't get all of the paint, but with ceramic palettes that have been glazed like this, you can get all of the paint. And what's neat about this is you can stack them. Actually, it looks like they sold me a lid rather than the actual thing, but I've been using it for 3 years and it works just fine. And then finally, you have these sort of ceramic palettes, which these would be great if you love liquid watercolors because you can put just a little bit in and allow it to evaporate and then reconstitute it as you need it. Now, ceramic palettes kind of vary by price. For a smaller 7-well flower mixing palette like this, you can get it for $11.28 on Amazon. For a larger one of like this, you can get it for $14.99 on Amazon. And then for small watercolor dishes like this, you can get 15 of them for $24.99 on Amazon. Or you can go down to Goodwill, you can go down to the Dollar Tree and just get plain porcelain plates, plain porcelain ramekins, plain porcelain dishware, and use that. It's the same thing. Next up is the Pabio masking marker. Now I happen to get this one in a Sketchbox water media box, and this has masking fluid inside, and then it has a hollow core nib, and I've demonstrated this in a couple of different videos. Now initially my concern is it puts down a super fine line. So I had a few concerns. I had concerns about stopping and skipping. I had concerns about it drying out and clogging the way the graphics marker will, because that one uses a fiber tip rather than like a hollow core kind of cone tip. This is capable of really, really fine lines. It does work better on cellulose paper than cotton rag paper. It tends to skip a little bit more on cotton rag paper. But I've tried several different paints out. I've tried dye-based paints, I've tried watercolor markers, and I've tried opaque watercolors, and then I tried Qor watercolor with these. And the only problem I had was a slight bit of seepage, a little bit of tinting with like greens and purples, but honestly, it's hardly noticeable unless you're looking for it. And considering this is capable of masking such a fine line, and you don't have to get out the brush soap and you don't have to lather up your synthetic brush, this thing is really handy. Now, it's not for large areas. It's for teensy weensy tiny areas like hair, or maybe marking out a highlight in the eyes, or like a glint of white teeth, that sort of thing. But if you do illustration or if you work small, this thing is really cool. You can get this for $5.50 on Blick. Next, we're gonna take a look at various ways to store your paint. We're taking a look at palettes. And if you are not investing in palettes, you're kind of missing out. Like if you've just got like a bunch of like loose half pans, that's definitely a recipe for disaster, especially if you have cats. So this year I found out about 2 very inexpensive brands of watercolor palettes, empty watercolor palettes that are available on Amazon. I found out about Handmade and I found out about Meeden. So this is a Handmade palette filled with Turner watercolors. I think it actually came with the half pans. So that is part of the price, and it holds 12 half pans or 6 whole pans, and I paid $8.99 for it on Amazon. And it's just as sturdy as any other watercolor palette out there. You can probably get them for really cheap on Wish as well. This is also a Handmade watercolor palette. It holds Holbein watercolors for me, built pretty much along the same lines. It can hold 24 half pans or 12 whole pans, and I paid $13.99 for this. And I think it came with the pans, but it might not. Some of these you can get without the pans and you pay less. So it really depends on what you need in your studio. And then this is a Meeden watercolor tin, and it's also a 24 half pan tin, and it is also around $13.99. This one has lost its ring. These are available in this really cute pink color. They're also available in mint, and they're available in black, and they are almost identical to the Handmade ones, except the edges are a little bit rounder, and they come in cuter colors. So if you like having a cute watercolor set, this could be the set for you. And I have my Shingansai pans in this set. So they all have like a removable watercolor tray, and they all have the additional wells built in. They're all built pretty much the same, but it's really handy to have on hand. And if you're like me and you like to keep your sets kind of segregated until you figured out whether you want to add them to your master set, this is a great way to do it, and it's really affordable. Another watercolor palette I've fallen in love with are the Homemade magnetic palettes. They come in a lot of really cute colors, and they come with pans already included. This has some Soho watercolors I need to field test again. And what's cool about this is they have magnets attached to the bottom, so you don't have to use like washi tape or blue tape or double stick tape to hold them in. And these can also be a really neat way, like some people just hoard watercolors. I hoard watercolors. And these could be a really cool way to sort your watercolors by color rather than by brand. And then you can just assemble a palette from there by selecting the colors you like. So these are pretty affordable. They're not fancy palettes, and you can get them for $10.99 on Amazon, and they come with the half pans. Finally, for the ultimate in affordable, nothing is more affordable than almost free. Saving / hoarding mint and Altoid tins makes for a really convenient, and I know this is a mess. How did this get to be a mess? I literally just recorded with this. Anyway, it makes for a really convenient way to store small amounts of watercolor. Maybe you've only got like the Essential 6 set, or you've got the test sets from Sennelier, or you've got the M. Graham's themed sets. These can be a great way to keep all of those organized if that's your desire, if you like keeping them segregated. And they're like $2 to $2.25 each, and they come with free mint. But if you are going to go this route, I highly recommend you order some half pans or whole pans. Now, some people use shells, but some of us don't live near the ocean, so we gotta make do. You can get empty half pans or whole pans on Amazon, and you can get 50 half pans for $8.99, which if you hoard watercolors, if you review watercolors, if you like to use watercolors from tubes, but you like drying them out like me, this is a great affordable way to do just that. I am pretty sure the review for this product is not available to you guys yet. I reviewed it pretty much as soon as I got home and was able to do so because I am super excited. If any of you guys can guess what this is, I would say I'm going to give you a prize, but I'm going to tell you right now, so there's no point. This is a paint puck. This is actually a used paint puck. I plucked it from the bottom of my water glass, and these are silicone scrubbers that you put in the bottom of your water glass, and then you can scrub your brush against them. They're very soft, and they work really, really well. I have fallen in love with these things, and they are $3.99 each on Blick. I recommend getting two, one for your clean cup and one for your dirty cup. Finally, we are on to the butcher's tray. I've been using it to hold everything else, so I was kind of waiting until I'd gotten a lot of that stuff put aside. Now, butcher's trays are really cool if you paint large because you can mix up large amount of paint, but they're really cool if you're a crafter, if you're a scrapbooker, if you're a hobbyist as well, if you like doing sort of mixed media things, because you can spray different watercolor colors in the bottom and then put your paper in them. If you're into suminagashi, you can use these for your suminagashi and you can do your marble techniques. In fact, that's what I'm going to be using this for. But generally, what I use my butcher's block for is just to hold things because I just don't have enough room on my workspace for this to be feasible. But if you have a large, lovely studio with lots of working space, you really need to get a butcher's tray. And these things are not that expensive. They kind of start at around $10, but they're various prices for various sizes on Amazon. You can also buy them from your local art supply shop or maybe even from your local kitchenware store. Lastly, we are on to our drawing and our line art stuff. And I don't have a lot to recommend to you guys this year because I've talked about it in years past. I will highly recommend, though, that you get some Pilot Color Eno colored leads. These are the mechanical pencils. This is what the plain lead refills look like. And these are great for sort of lineless watercolor art or lineless alcohol marker art. You guys have seen me use these on this channel. I also use these for comic craft, and I love, 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 love these things. Although, since I went to Japan, I did pick up a bunch more colored leads, and I might be reviewing some more in the near future. So if you are interested in that, for whatever reason, make sure you stay tuned. And then we have our lining tools here, lining / inking. And this year I recommend, in fact, if I can find one handy, I will broaden that recommendation. But you guys aren't necessarily comic artists, and it's a comic artist recommendation. Anyway, we have here Pentel's pigment brush pens, extra fine and medium. The extra fine is $6.50 on Amazon and the medium is $5.50 plus shipping on Amazon. I do recommend you kind of browse around for the best price. And what's cool about these is, so you guys saw me talk about this one earlier in the video. This black body here indicates that these are dye-based. These are going to be water soluble. The gray body here indicates that these are going to be pigment-based, waterproof. You can use these to ink your watercolor illustrations before you start painting. So if you're a fan of my dissolvable blue lines technique, these are definitely something that you should check out. I also highly recommend the Sakura Pigma FB MB MBB brush pens. You guys see me use the heck out of the FB brush pens. These are fairly easy to come by. I order mine from Amazon, but it's getting to the point where I need to contact Sakura and just place a bulk order because I tear through these things. I am inking all the time. So I have here the FB and the MB, and the B stands for brush. I love brush pens, as you guys know, because I love dynamic, bouncy line art. So FB is fine brush, MB is medium brush, and BB, which I don't have to hand, is a big brush. But these are also waterproof, so you can ink before you paint or ink after. It's really up to you. And you can get a pack of all three for $8.86 on Amazon. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this journey, helping me unwrap all of these amazing watercolor supplies. Don't forget to check the description below for links to demonstrations, and make sure you check natosoup.blogspot.com for the full 2018 watercolor gift guide. If you're buying for someone else, for a loved one this year, I have other watercolor gift guides available for all different skill levels. I have a children's watercolor gift guide, I have a student watercolor gift guide, and I have an intermediate watercolor gift guide that I think you guys will really enjoy. Thank you guys so much for joining me in 2018, and I want to give a very special heartfelt shout out to all my wonderful art nerds on Patreon. It is thanks to their generosity that this channel is even possible. So thank you guys so much. In case you guys don't know, all of these products were purchased out of my own pocket. They were not sent to me for review, and all opinions and recommendations are my own. This is not a sponsored video. So I am looking forward to sharing 2019 with you guys. I hope you guys will let me know down in the description below what you want to see in 2019. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I've sparked your imagination. I hope I've sparked your interest. Bye guys!